Good morning, Abundant Life Church. This is Pastor Chris, and we are going to be wrapping up our study today of Romans chapter 11, verses 1 through 10. We've been talking about the idea of covenant and that God is not keeping the Jews out. They are welcome to come, just like anybody's welcome to come through Jesus. God promised salvation to the Jews, and He kept that promise by giving them a chance to come through Jesus. But we said earlier that there's two things that God keeps. He keeps His word. What else does He keep? There's a whole other aspect to this question. We want to make sure that we see it in order to truly understand how this whole thing works. We must really understand the idea of remnant and what that means. Earlier in the passage, we have referred to the to Elijah saying, "Lord, everybody's turned their back on you." God said, "No, I've kept a remnant." God knew that many of the Israelites in Elijah's time were going to leave and they would follow Baal. What would happen to the covenant then? Would it die out? No, because God made sure there were always going to be people who kept the faith. That's the remnant. Didn't God say the same thing would happen with Jesus? Most of the Jews wouldn't believe. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The same thing happened with Jesus. Most of the Jews did not believe, but God kept a remnant of Jews who did. Those were the ones who fulfilled the promise, not because they're Jews, but because they had faith and they had the faith to believe in the gift of Jesus that God had sent them. God will always keep a remnant of people who keep the faith alive and keep going in a relationship with Him, no matter how far off course the rest of the world gets. It's important to remember in this day and age when it feels like nobody is following Jesus anymore. Faith is dying out in our culture. It's not going to die out. God always keeps it alive. Do you know every 4 years when they have the Olympics and they make a big deal out of starting the Olympic flame there in Athens in Greece. And then runners take it to this every part of the world. And they have all these, camera videos of people running down the street carrying the Olympic flame, what have you. Ever wonder what happens if it goes out? They have to run all the way back to Athens to get it relit? No. They actually, every time one of those runners has the flame, following them is a van. In the van is another torch. It's kept in this container, what have you, and it's fueled continually. If it goes out, that's also from Athens. If the torch goes out, they just go relight it in the van with the same flame source. I'm really telling that story terribly. I hope you're following me. The flame will be kept alive no matter what. This is the same thing that happens with the gospel. God keeps a remnant. He keeps His vision going no matter what culture is doing, no matter what wars are going on, no matter how bad culture is getting, no matter how much society is falling apart. The gospel never dies out. Culture we're in today, let's be honest, it's something of a disaster. It's not just that many people have left the idea of God and of Jesus, it's the very idea of having faith at all is being mocked, being laughed at. Immorality and indecency are celebrated nowadays. Virtue is mocked. It's discouraging to see the way things are going. And we might wonder if the gospel is dying out and will go away completely. And that can get us discouraged. A movie came out a few years ago called Salmon Fishing in the Yemen. Interesting title, but in it, two young people are talking about going to church. And they said so casually, I don't even know anybody that goes to church. Do you? In all culture, the idea of faith seems to be going away. It's not even wrestled over or argued about anymore. It's just becoming irrelevant. And that's discouraging. But what have we learned about remnants? God will always keep the flame of His gospel going, no matter what man does, no matter what culture does or society does. God's gospel will keep going. You are on the side. If you are following Jesus, you are on the side that will win. God will be triumphant. Never think about that the truth of God's love for us will ever die out. There will always be people who serve the Lord and keep this going, and you are part of that remnant. Think about the words of Joshua, he's the guy who took over after Moses. And after they had gone in, after they had conquered the promised land, after the people were in the promised land, towards the end of Joshua's life, he told them, in essence, we're surrounded by all these pagan religions. We're surrounded by all these tribes who worship all these weird gods. And a lot of you are going to be drawn away, or your children are going to be drawn away to follow these weird gods. Do whatever you want. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Can you say that for yourself? If you can, don't worry. You're not the only one. There are others who can. They are the remnant. Have a great day. We'll see you next time.